We're going to go to the audience and take some questions for Joe and for Stephen, and we're going to start with Mike, who is a small business operator up in Pennsylvania. Mike Hoffman. Mike, welcome.
Good to be here. My question's for Joe and the panel. I'm a small business owner, and I've had a business for 13 years, and I operate in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Governor Corsi and Governor Rendell have dipped into my pocket significantly more over the last 2 or 3 years, and it's put an added burden on my business. Right. Now the federal government, there's talk of that dipping further into the pocket. Right. What's an alternative to that as a way of helping the economy grow?
Well, can I take that one?
Let me ask you,
Mike, I think it's a great question. I think it's a question on the mind of a lot of Americans right now. And I think what's infuriating a lot of people about the Obama tax plan is, wait a minute, why don't we look at cutting some government spending for once? I mean, folks, I think you all know that spending is completely out of control. And look, Mike, as you know, Republicans are as responsible for this as Democrats. I mean, when George Bush was elected, we had a $2 trillion budget. Now it's $3.1 trillion. That doesn't include any of the cost of the bailouts that we've done. And so I have a question for you all. How many of you think more than 20 cents out of every dollar you send to Washington is wasted? How many say more than 40 cents of every dollar is wasted? I mean, so the American people really think that they want this government brought down to size, and they don't see why we have to shrink the family budget. Why not shrink the federal budget?
Joe, when you can't meet all of the things you want to do as both a father and a small business operator, what is it you do as Joe, the American citizen, when you can't do everything you want? What do you do?
No, I cut things at home.
Right, you cut.
Right, it's real simple, isn't it?
Yeah, instead of buying ham, you buy bologna. Instead of, you got to cut things. You clip out the coupons. You look for things to do. You don't go out as much. I'm not one that goes out much, but other people, do. You spend more time at home. It just kind of cuts. So, as far as your question, you don't want tax advice from me. I'm a plumber, and I don't own the small business yet. It's it's a dream that I have. So I'm learning, just like a lot of people are these days. So.
Joe, your tax advice couldn't be any worse than the advice most people get from the IRS. Like all the toll-free numbers. So you might want to go into tax counseling after all. We've got another question up in the audience. This is from Lynn, who is from Canada. Lynn, welcome, and feel free to ask your question.
Thank you, Mike. My question is for Mike and Joe, and I wanted to know, I'm visiting from Canada. I'm proud to live next to what I believe is the greatest nation in the world for doing good for others in your history. I understand the anger in the economy, but I don't understand its direction. George Bush has been a great president. He's kept you safe. For 7 of his 8 years, the economy was booming. Since the Democrats took Congress, looking from outside, I've seen huge increases in spending. Mr. Bush has kept you safe. He's brought the war off your shores over to Iraq. Now he's bringing you home in victory. And again, you're such a great nation. You've freed a country over there. You've given the people hospitals and schools. Why are people angry at George Bush and the Republicans and not Nancy Pelosi, Barney Frank, Acorn, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac?
Yeah. Well, Lynn, I think the answer to that, first of all, well, let me before I answer your question, something, I've just decided, I think we need to get you honorary citizenship of the United States of America. You obviously have a greater love and respect for the United States of America than many of the people who live here, and ought to really realize what an incredible experience and benefit it is just to be an American. But let me express this, and having been a governor for 10.5 years, one of the things I realized was that when you're the chief executive, whether it's of a state or a nation, you tend to be the personification of government as people perceive it. And the reason that a lot of things get blamed on a president, be it George Bush or whoever the president is, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, Richard Nixon, is because it's the one person that people can relate to and identify. And so, therefore, I think sometimes that people see it as he's the guy. And if you spread that over 535 members of Congress, it's really easy for those guys to hide among each other, and that's what happened.
And you know, Mike, a lot of people ask the question, I've been asked this hundreds of times over the last few weeks, what do we do to get out of this crisis?
Yep.
And you and I think, have pretty much the same answer. I'm a flat tax guy, you're a fair tax guy, but they're pretty similar. I mean, my goodness, if we could put in place a low flat rate tax on consumption,
it would
get
make
rid
a
of
big
income
difference.
tax, I mean, my God, it would be like rocket fuel for this economy.